Hello, welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a certified yoga teacher, an ordained minister, kirtan artist, human being, amongst other things. Uh, Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about dosing, which is a medical term, but it's very relevant in yoga and spirituality. And the alternate title for this talk is Too Much of a Good Thing. Okay, before I get started, I do want to thank everyone who makes this talk possible, which are my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to join that community, check the links below. And I also want to thank those who make, occasional donations on PayPal or Venmo, and then those who help support on YouTube with a thumbs up or a like or a comment or by sharing. It's been a bit of a struggle, I'll be honest with you. So if you've been on the fence about supporting this channel or my work, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and maybe consider actually doing that, because it's been really tough financially to keep this going. All right, so enough about that. Today, I want to talk a little bit about dosing. Too much of a good thing. So dosing, I like that term because, again, it's a medical term, and it's something I think we are all familiar with when it comes to medicine. So if we go to the doctor, she doesn't give us a prescription and then say, just take however much you want whenever you want. No, she will say, take this amount at this frequency, okay? Then if you come back and maybe you're having problems, she might adjust the dosing. She might say you need to take less or you need to take more. Now, what are the problems you can have? Well, side effects, negative side effects, right? Or it doesn't seem to be working is another problem. So we are well aware of this when it comes to medicine. If we take too little, it's going to be ineffective. We're not going to have any result. If we take too much, then the side effects may be overwhelming. We might get sick. Now, the other thing I'll say is that sometimes certain kinds of medicines just don't agree with certain constitutions or certain people, right? And this can be true in yoga as well, with spiritual techniques as well. However, when we're working with a doctor, we determine that with a doctor. We don't necessarily determine that just on our own, okay? So this is again, I'm using our medical framework because it's something familiar to most people. Most people have worked in this environment. Now, as a yoga teacher and a spiritual teacher, really the best approach you can take as an individual is to approach your spirituality in the same sort of manner, in the same way that you would with a doctor. Now, are old doctors ethical or moral, or are old doctors always right? Of course not, right? Same with spiritual teachers. I'm not always right. No teacher is always right. And not all teachers are ethical or moral or trying to do the right thing. Are there doctors that might try and rip you off? Yes. Are there spiritual teachers that might do that? Yes. Okay, so this is I just want to get that out of the way. You need to be aware of that. We can't be so naive when dealing with either doctors. Oh, well, my doctor said. Doesn't mean your doctor is right. And then likewise, oh, my guru said. Doesn't mean your guru is right, okay? When I say something, it doesn't mean that it's irrevocably right, all right? I just don't believe in that. I know people love to put their teachers up on pedestals, and that's wonderful. And I'm not telling you to unnecessarily drive a wedge between yourself and them or to question everything they say unnecessarily. But We need to assess whether things are actually working for us or not. Now, I'll say this, we don't want to assess just based on how we feel, okay? Unless that's what our doctor or our teacher recommends. Hey, take this and you're going to feel better. Well, if you don't feel better, then that's the measure, all right? But a lot of things in medicine, a lot of things in spirituality, they work over a longer time frame. So the result is not instant. We can't necessarily expect instant results to feel better instantly, okay? So we have to be willing to have some faith. If I'm taking probiotics because I got sick, well, I'm not going to be cured with the first pill. I have faith that the medicine will work. So I keep taking the probiotics and then I start to get better after a day or two, right? So a lot of spiritual techniques are very much the same way. Now, unfortunately, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, okay? But I have been doing this a long time. I do have an advanced certification. I have many more hours than the 500 that are required for an advanced certification. So I would be, from current standards, double what the highest certification is recognized in the United States right now. I would have double the amount of hours in education. And that's studying with teachers. That's not to mention study that I've done on my own. So yes, it's my opinion, but this is a very educated opinion. This is an opinion that comes from hundreds of thousands of hours of teaching and helping others, and also thousands of hours of study on my own. So looking at what we're doing as almost like medicine, you see, medicine has one goal. All medicine has the same goal, ultimately. Do you know what that goal is? It's health. Now, health might be something that can be a little tricky to put a finger on. Like what is health exactly? What is a healthy person? There might be different ways that we can define this. But ultimately, that's what it is. That's why we take any medicine. We all have somewhere in us this sort of blueprint of what health is. We have an idea, we have a feeling of what it would feel like to be healthy. And we use medical interventions to become healthy. So what about yoga? What about spirituality? It seems like there's all these different techniques, there's all these different things. But ultimately, I would say all the techniques have one ultimate goal, and that is to put us in touch with spirit. So as human beings, we have, in a sense, two lives, or we have this hidden ability within us. Yes, we're physical beings and we have a physical life. No one's arguing with that. But what humans discovered over time is that there are things that they can do that put them in touch with something deeper. And that's what I refer to when I'm talking about spirit. Now, I'm not that interested in saying which system is the right one, or which one is the best one, or which name for spirit is the right one. Again, we could call spirit God, we could call it Jesus, we could call it Buddha nature, we could call it Krishna. That's how I view it, okay? If you're attached to one of those systems, then you might feel like, no, there's only one name, okay? But that's just your name for what I'm calling spirit. That's what you have to understand, okay? I'm not trying to tell you to stop using that name, but I'm telling you that is the name that you use. Other people are referring to that same exact feeling, that same place that you go, that same feeling of connection, of being protected, that same feeling of faith, but they'll use a different word. Why? Because they were raised in a different culture, or they found that another tradition or system resonates more with them. So you see it however you want to see it, but this has been my experience, okay? Humans have different words for the same thing. There's some bamboo next to me, okay? Bamboo is the word I use, but somewhere else, another part of the world, they might have a completely different name for it, okay? And so this is one area of confusion that I find human beings have a lot of, they get really stuck on their name of this ineffable thing that we have. So just like medicine, all medicine is to return us or put us in touch with health, right? Which is also this sort of, what is it? Do we really know? We know it when we have it, right? But it can be tricky. What is someone who's truly healthy? What do they look like? How do they feel, right? I think you probably in your mind have an idea what health would feel like for you, all right? And that can be your lodestar. That is what you try and follow. Now, however you get there, Western medicine, Eastern medicine, new techniques, old techniques, doesn't really matter. As long as you get there, as far as I'm concerned. What would that look like for you? So same here with spirituality from my perspective. Spirituality puts us in touch with spirit. It connects us with spirit, with a part of ourselves that is often otherwise locked away. What humans have found is that there are certain techniques like chanting, like prayer, like studying scripture, listening to a spiritual talk or a teacher, in yoga tradition, doing certain physical practices, that these things put us in touch with spirit, okay? So awesome. Just like medicine, these practices can put us in touch with spirit. But just like medicine, we can underdo and overdo practices, all right? Now, generally speaking, there are two effects from that. If I underdo, then that's like not taking enough medicine. In other words, the effects won't really have the desired result. So let's say I chant for 3 minutes in the morning, and then I get up and I live the rest of my day. And I find that chanting for 3 minutes in the morning, I don't feel any different, even though I've done it for a long time, okay? Because again, there can be a kind of a delayed effect with medicine and also with spiritual practice. We can't always do something once and expect fireworks. It just doesn't work that way, okay? So you do that and nothing seems to happen. Well, that could be a dosing problem. So maybe you need more than 3 minutes of chanting to have an effect. Same with yoga classes. Maybe you go to a yoga class and you go once a week. You're just not really feeling much better. You usually do these things because you want to change. You want to feel differently, right? You want to feel better. Now again, if you try and judge too quickly in the short term, you will likely find that you're disappointed with almost everything, especially in spirituality. But even in medicine, medicine, very often you have to take it for a while for the effects to really have an effect, a longer term effect. But in spirituality especially, if we cut things too short, if we're too quick to decide whether something is working or not based on how we feel, then we will likely throw away a lot of very effective techniques. So dosing, I can increase the time, I can increase the frequency, okay? That's basically the things that I have. Time, frequency, and intensity. Those are kind of the three things that you play around with when dosing. So if chanting for 3 minutes isn't working, then maybe I chant for 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, okay? If chanting just in the morning isn't working, then maybe I chant in the morning and at night. If chanting once a week isn't working, perhaps I start to chant every day. Now with chanting, we can talk about duration and frequency, but it's a little bit harder to talk about intensity. Intensity comes up, which we could call strength. That comes up more with postures in yoga, asana. And again, remember that chanting and postures have the same ultimate goal, which is to put us in touch with spirit. Okay, they perhaps get there through different means, but ultimately these are tools that a yogi uses to put her in touch with spirit. So intensity shows up in the form of, if I'm doing a posture in, say, a power vinyasa class, how hard am I pushing into that? How much intensity, how much force am I using in that particular posture? This will have an impact on, again, the outcome, whether the outcome is appropriate, the one that I want, the one I desire, or ineffective. So those are the three main things that you want to look at. Now, again, my heartfelt advice for you is ultimately I would determine these things in collaboration with your spiritual advisor or teacher. And I hope you find one. I hope you have one, because it really can be a game changer. I think those of you who've been with me for a while know that I really don't like it when people say you have to have a teacher, or you have to have a guru or something like that. That to me doesn't really hold water, because we hear stories of enlightened beings, people who wake up spontaneously without a teacher, without any help. Okay, Eckhart Tolle might be an example of this. Not even interested in spirituality before spirituality came and found him. Byron Katie, same thing. Not interested, not meditating, not trying to be enlightened, and yet enlightenment finds her. So to say a statement like, you have to have a teacher, this is, in my view, already false. Okay, you're already spreading a lie. You're saying a lie. Is it true that in most instances, you probably will not get very far at all without a teacher? Yes, that's absolutely true. So again, I like to be very careful with my words. I studied philosophy in high school and in college, and I have a degree in philosophy. So for me, words can be very powerful in how we use those words. And so I feel we want to be careful. So saying something like, you have to have a teacher, or you won't make progress without a teacher, this is just simply not true, because I again cited two examples of very powerful spiritual teachers who did not have a teacher of their own. In the yoga tradition, additionally, we're told that we have a teacher within us, okay, Ishvara. So to say that you have to have an external teacher is a lie, because we all have a teacher within us. Again, having said that, most people will not know how to contact the inner teacher without first contacting an external teacher. That's just the truth right there. Most people. Are you most people? Maybe not. And that's great if you aren't. Then you don't necessarily need to listen to this talk. You don't need my help. But for most people, they will need somebody. Not necessarily me, but they will need someone who helps them course correct. Now this person, whoever this is, however you find them, whether they're a preacher, or maybe someone who doesn't even identify as a spiritual teacher, but you feel a spiritual connection with, or perhaps it's your partner, and maybe you two have a deep spiritual connection. Perhaps it is a yoga teacher or someone like that. whoever it is, I hope you have someone that you can go to like that, and then you can discuss these types of things about dosing and how much of something do you need to have the desired effect, the desired result. Another thing I'll bring up has to do with certain things being just part of the process. So what I mean by this is I might give someone a technique and they might experience some unpleasantness as a result of the technique. If they're on their own, they may interpret that unpleasantness as, oh, this isn't working and I need to stop, because most of us don't like unpleasant things. However, again, if they are in communication with me, and I can tell them, well, you know what, that unpleasantness is par for the course, and it will go away if you continue, or it should go away, let me know. And then they can continue with the knowledge that what they're experiencing is normal, it happens, and that if they just trust in the process, that the uncomfortableness will subside. And I've had this happen, especially when teaching people to meditate. Many people early on experience problems when meditating, problems. Really, they're not problems, they just perceive them as such. And if they're just reassured that, yes, this is normal, you're not doing anything wrong, and there's also nothing wrong with what's happening, right? You are just one of maybe a minority of people that experiences this kind of side effect temporarily. And then they can continue, and hopefully, usually what happens is that trouble, that problem subsides, okay? The alternative is they come to me with the problem. I tell them it should go away, but then they come back and say, hey, it hasn't gone away. In which case, we might adjust the dosing, right? Frequency, time, and intensity. Those are the things that we might play with to see if we can get them to a place where what they're doing will have, again, the desired result. All right, everyone. I'd love to hear from you. Do you have experience with this? Is this something that you play around with in your life? How often do you go to, say, a yoga class, and what sorts of results that has in your life? How often and for how long do you meditate? When you're doing yoga class, how fast does that class go? This is, for me, a big thing that my teacher, Paul Grilly, made me aware of. Traditional yoga moves slow compared to modern yoga. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I'm not going to say one way or another, because good and bad to me are relative. But I will say it has a result. If you move through, let's say, 18 postures in an hour-long class versus, I don't know, 100 postures, you know, maybe some of those are repeated, but that's going to have an effect. That is dosing. So to say that, oh, it's, you know, this type of yoga or that type of yoga, that they're going to have the same results, they won't. Not any more than, say, cough medicine and aspirin having the same result. The goal, the ultimate goal is the same. Again, to put us in touch with spirit. This is what yoga is about. But the specific technique that is used will have a more specific, shorter term result. Just like drugs and medicine, the right combination in the right order will give us the best results. And it's no different with yoga. And this is, again, where medicine, if you were just given a pharmacy and said, make yourself healthy, it might be very difficult for you to figure that out. Likewise, with yoga, if you are just given all these yoga classes, but you have no guidance on what you should be doing, how often, how frequently, it can be difficult to figure things out on your own. Not impossible, but you're going to need to take, I think, a lot of care and have a lot of self-awareness. And the things that you are judging good and bad by may not ultimately be the best measure, because we can approach spiritual practices in a sort of addictive way if we're not careful. Anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you got a lot from today's talk. Again, please do check out the Patreon community. Consider joining there and supporting this work. Until next time, namaste and have a beautiful day.